glad to see it. Some of you have seen me demo this before. I demoed it the first Scratchboard get together we had, but I am happy to do it again because I only do about 3 things. I do hair, I do eyes, oh wait, I do noses. Yeah. And once in a while I do color. So that's about it. So I'm going to do a couple of little demos on different textures of fur, and I'll maybe do the eye depending on time that we have here. Animals have different types of fur. Most of what I do is animals. People have similar hair as, say, a horse or a long-haired dog or something, so it's applicable to humans as well. Most animals have different length of hair depending on the part of the body that you're working on. Some of them are the same length everywhere, but most of them are not. So I will be working on just the eye section of this tiger because I'm doing it on this little 3x5 board. And even within this area, you can see the longer hairs that are above the eye, longer hairs that are over here, and then the shorter hairs that are on the nose area, and then very short, little bristly stuff or a little bit around his eye, but that's mostly going to be skin. And then, of course, the eye itself would be a smooth texture that you also have to convey. So for hair, usually the line tools are going to be your best tools because hair, for the most part, is lines. And depending on how coarse the hair is, I will use a variety of different tools. And once we get on to the other piece a little bit, I'll show you another technique that I've just started doing since last year, so it's pretty new to me, but I've had good success with it. So for this part, I do actually, I know it's probably kind of hard to see at the camera, but there is actually a line drawing done with pencil on this little board. I'm not working, just transferring directly mentally. But so I'm going to do these little short bristly hairs underneath the eye that are very light, and so I can work with a moderate amount of pressure because I know that I'm taking it all the way down to white. Hairs will always lay in a direction, essentially. However, they don't always lay exactly parallel to one another. They will usually overlap. And the longer the hair, the more it will overlap. For example, a horse's tail, the hairs will cross a lot. Very short hairs on, say, a dachshund or a boxer or a very short, smooth-coated dog are going to cross much less often. Or in the case of underneath my tiger's eye, they don't cross a tremendous amount.
Have you ever done an animal with extremely curly hair?
I have not personally done them. I know we've had some people do poodles.
I was just going to ask you what tools you use, but since you didn't do it.
I know I think she used like a fiberglass brush a lot to get kind of those swirly hairs and then went back in with a line tool afterwards.
So are we going to do the Charles Ewing trick on you?
Put a leg on, or a string on my leg.
Yes.
Well, I don't know what to say about this particular hair. It's very short and fairly straight. I mean, it has a slight curvature to it, but it's not anything particularly interesting. I do tend to work, when I'm not taking something down white, I do tend to work with fairly light pressure because I don't like to do a lot of re-inking. Some artists really like to go back in and do a lot of re-inking. I prefer to not do a ton of re-inking. And most of the re-inking I do is done with spit, as most of you know. And I lick my finger and essentially I'm rubbing the ink from the board that I've scraped up back into the cracks. The DNA method, as it was referred to the first time and now what most of us call it.
Now what happens if you have clay mixed in with that white and you use the DNA and it makes that gray smear?
Because it's just mixing it back into the lines, and I've never had a problem.
Okay.
Yeah, I've never had a problem. But I don't tend to work so light that I'm mostly hitting. I don't tend to do the rod dig into the board method very much. Unlike Diana, I do tend to blow on my boards a lot to get the dust out of the way.
Somebody smells really good. It's a lozenge.
It's my cough drop. I'll have to make a note
I'm
of
getting
that.
hungry, I think.
And hair does not always make smooth transitions. Sometimes it'll come directly opposing itself, and sometimes it'll raise up like the corners of eyes. A lot of times the hair actually raises up a little bit.